2010, I was in a motorcycle accident. I was traveling eastbound on Washington when a gentleman ran a light and hit me. The first thing I thought was I would need to protect myself, so I contacted an attorney first, as opposed to calling the insurance company to make sure that I was covering myself. I called Brad Mainor's office because his name is pretty well known throughout this town. I've lived here a very long time, and they specialize. That's all they do is personal injuries. So obviously, if you're in the situation where a person that's their whole focus, of course you're going to get better results as a result of that, instead of someone that's trying to kind of put all their eggs in different baskets. So they specialize in this, and they are experts at it, and they make you feel that way. If you've been in an accident, my first thought to you, or my best advice to you, would be to contact an attorney first and make sure that you are covering yourself, because no one else is. You have to make sure that you have somebody in your corner that knows what they're doing. You're not an attorney, I'm not an attorney. Make sure that you use someone that can help you.
I was involved in a car accident. I was in the car with my friend, and we were T-boned in the middle of an intersection. In the accident, I had ruptured discs in my neck and nerve damage to my shoulder, and my hip was hurting pretty bad. After the accident, I wasn't really sure what to do. I was a bit overwhelmed. I didn't know who I should talk to first, and I knew of Brad and his reputation, so I called him first. When I called, they explained to me that I wouldn't be paying any money out of pocket. Not only did they make me feel at ease, but they kept me in the loop, what was going on all of the time. In the settlement, I received more than I was expecting, and I was really impressed to learn that they worked with my doctors and the hospitals and all the tests that I had to do, all those testing centers, to negotiate and get me as much money as they could. Through this process, Brad really treated me as a friend, and I wasn't expecting that dealing with a successful law firm.
I was in a big box store. All of a sudden, out of the blue, something hit me. It was one of a very large metal cart, and it was filled to the top with cola bottles. And the young man was pushing the cart. He couldn't see anywhere around it. But then he hit me again, much harder, and I flew through the air. He thought that it was an obstacle, and he just wanted to push through. And the obstacle was me. Nobody saw it happen. One of the assistant managers helped me up, and I asked him to do a report, and he didn't really want to do it, but he did it. I went to the doctor several days later, and I started to hurt. I chose Brad because I felt he was so knowledgeable in the field of what they called slip and fall. So I had to find somebody who would really represent me and who understood slip and fall and could get a decent settlement for me. The companies that you go against are going to fight you tooth and nail. It's important to have somebody like Brad on your side who's going to fight tooth and nail for you and get the last dollar that you possibly can.
I'm Taylor Randolph. I'm an attorney here in the state of Nevada. I have a master's in legal taxation. You know, most attorneys, most educated attorneys that practice in the law are going to stick to what they know, what their strengths are, and avoid their weaknesses. And essentially, what's vital is to do what you know and do it well. So that's why I always refer my clients to Joe and Brad, because they solely do personal injury representation. And that's their bread and butter, and that's what they excel in. And they know that area of law. I know when I give them a client that they're going to get sound representation. You know, personally, I've tried to dabble in that area of law, and I realize it's better, it's truly better to let somebody that knows what they're doing do it. And you know, soundly, Brad and Joe, they know what they're doing. Clients love them because they actually aren't afraid to communicate with them and return phone calls. Heck, Joe and Brad will even give out their cell phone, which is, you know, some stuff that most people won't even do. So they're not afraid to be your attorney. Most attorneys, they just want the case. They don't want the client. Whereas at the Mainor Wirth law firm, they want both. They want to help you out, and they want to see the case succeed. And if you've been injured, give Mainor Wirth a call, because the longer you wait, the more damage it will be to your case.
I was in a nightclub that I had frequented many times in the past, and I was talking to one of the individuals that works in there, young lady, and next thing I know, I saw a look of fear on her face, and found myself unconscious in the arms of a bouncer in the bathroom, asking me what had happened and informing me of what had happened, that he had pulled several individuals off me after they were literally beating the hell out of me. They fractured my spine, tore my ACL, broke my ribs, broke my nose, busted my teeth out, and really put a beating on me in what was described by an eyewitness as an attempt to kill me. No other reason was given other than that they were drunk, violent individuals that had frequently had problems in the bar in the past. But unfortunately, when the bar found out how serious my injuries were, they all of a sudden didn't know who these 4 individuals were anymore, even though they had been previously barred from the club on at least 2 occasions. At first, the club communicated with me for 2 or 3 days, and then when they learned the seriousness of my injuries, they did everything they could to distance themselves from the case and try to make it seem like it was actually my fault that I got attacked in their establishment. I knew that I was fighting big money, politically connected individuals, and I wanted to find an attorney that had the guts to go against those guys. And first round, I had an attorney file a lawsuit, but then as the case got more complicated, he bailed out on the case, and I was left pretty much high and dry. And then I found Brad Mainor, and Brad took on my case. They had it all on videotape, and they knew what happened, but they refused to show us and eventually destroyed that videotape so that we could never see what exactly happened, and we could never prove what exactly happened. And even though the proof was probably going to be a little bit tough to come by, Mr. Mainor decided to take the case on anyway, knowing that we were fighting a couple $100 million company. And Mr. Mainor took the case on, made sure that I got the medical care that I needed, kept the doctors at bay for 4 years plus, and got me walking again. When this case first happened, I spent 2 months in a wheelchair. If you get injured in Las Vegas or anywhere in Nevada and you need a personal injury attorney, I recommend you call Mainor Wirth. They took my case, they worked my case, they won my case.
We're coming out of Costco and I did a slow turn because the car was packed with food, and the lady came and just slammed into my car and threw me into a palm tree and just kept on going. And then we realized we'd been hit because it's such a shock at first. When you're going that slow, you don't think you're going to get hit, and that's exactly what happened. I hurt my neck and my back. At the time, I just thought it was something minor. Immediately was the headache, but you expect that from a crash. It wasn't until later that evening that I realized I wasn't able to think straight. I couldn't feel with my hands. My hands kept going numb, and they were tingling, and then I had pain shooting down in my legs. The first person I called was Brad Mainor. I called him before I even called my insurance rep, because I wanted to make sure that I gave the right information to the right people in the right sequence. I had the foresight to call an attorney right away because I was in a crash 10 years ago, and I called my insurance company right away, thought that they would handle everything for me because I thought that's why you pay your premiums, and realized when it came time to get my car repaired, they didn't want to help me out. It's important that you follow the important steps of first calling an attorney, getting medical attention. By calling and speaking to Brad, they were able to start the process of contacting the other person's insurance and getting my case established. So I didn't have to do that on my own, which I thought I would. When it came to the end of my case, I wasn't expecting to get any money back because my medical bills were so high that Brad and his staff made sure that I actually got money in my pocket. So not only were my bills paid, I got money back too. After the settlement, they still continued to work for me. I still was receiving bills from different doctors that I had seen in the beginning of the case, and they were able to make those phone calls and the bills stopped coming. After working with Brad on my daughter's case, I knew how concerned he was about his clients. But after our car crash, I called Brad on a Sunday. I was surprised that I got a phone call back that evening from Brad asking how we were doing, giving me the information that I needed on what type of doctor to go see, to get into physical therapy right away, that would help our injuries in the long run, especially because my daughter had just been released from her previous crash. In our case, I asked around. With Kristen's case, I asked around. I asked people who had been in car crashes. I had had some experience with some bad attorneys here in town and knew I didn't want to take that route again. So I researched and looked on the internet and talked to other people that have used him, and that's when we were sold on Brad. From talking to different people, I hear so many people that are seeing an attorney they're not comfortable with. They don't feel that they're being handled and represented correctly. They call in, all they speak to is a paralegal or the receptionist. If you're not comfortable with the attorneys you currently have, call Joe, call Brad. They're gonna do you right.